Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order. I have 6:30. And like I said, I've got a lot of things to go over tonight because last time, Austin came here and gave us what he wanted for a request form so he could digitize it and get it to his people so they could send it back that way. So we don't have to worry about any kind of paperwork that we've had in the past. This is gonna be different. And we're gonna go over a rating system that's different. I wanna go over that. I made some changes and see what you think. And then talk about some of the stuff we did last year, recommended, talk about what's coming up, and some other issues that we have to be aware of. Anybody got any comments or questions?
Well, the
before we
minutes,
start?
anybody have a chance to look at least the ones from last week?
I can't get it, so
You can't open it on your
I'll
phone?
open it on the phone.
Oh, okay.
I didn't.
I sent them the way I always do, but,
I looked at both of them. I wasn't here at the last meeting.
yeah.
So I
Right,
can't
so
comment on
that means there's only,
That's only the three of us could do it. I don't know if you can open it on your phone and read it.
But then for the 420 meeting, I
Yeah,
think the three of us can address that.
yeah. He can't open that on his either.
You wanna just read through mine?
oh, sure.
I mean, that was, we had both Joe and Seth here on that, and we talked a lot about the, recent, let me see.
Okay.
Oh, that's not it. Yeah. Did you see anything in it that,
No, look good.
no
Look good.
typos at all? or anything?
Looks good, and this is the April 12th, okay,
Yeah.
Okay, minutes. Okay, April,
all right.
So I would make a motion to accept the minutes from April 12th.
Do
I
have a-
was able to open the ones
You
for
can't.
the 10th.
you can't vote on it
Yeah.
anyways. You second that?
Yep, I second.
All right,
Any discussion? Hearing none, all, vote? Michael?
approve?
Aye.
Dan?
Aye.
Approve? Harry, approve, okay. 412 approved, as is.
And, the other one,
If you wanna look at that one, I don't know if it's okay.
was last week. Did you read it?
Mhm.
You could put input if there were any typos in it or anything.
I didn't see any typos. Looked good.
Hey, I'm getting better.
My last name is spelled wrong.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Must have skimmed that.
If you look at the
Is it
letter,
right here, Boreson?
Yeah, somehow there's an L between the E and the S
Okay.
on the minutes.
Okay, I'll make that correction.
looks good. Okay,
Looks good.
all right.
Would you
Yeah,
make a
can we have
motion on
mo-
that?
Can we have a motion to accept the minutes?
I'll make a motion to accept my minutes. Can I do that?
Do I have a second? Sure.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Other than the spelling of your name? Okay, hearing no other. Move to accept the minutes. Dan?
Abstain.
Aye.
Aye.
Mike, aye.
Aye.
Harry, aye. Okay. All right. First thing I want you to do is to look at the list of members on the left-hand side and tell me if there's anything that needs to be changed there, because it's gonna be on all our letterhead from now on.
Yes,
Mike's email address.
Mike's email address, I
Oh
told you
my
that.
God, I changed that. What, did it revert back?
Well,
Because I have it, where is it?
and the phone numbers, I haven't had that phone number in 5 years.
Mike, I swear to God, I changed it.
Okay.
Did I print with some new and some old?
You might have. You know, if you start typing it and you just type
I'll
my
change-
name, it'll autofill with the one you've used the most.
I'll change that. I have,
Okay. And the
Okay.
phone number is also changed.
yep, I have the new one there for you too. All right, so let me-
508 265
Okay.
4488.
That was the same one you gave me last week, right? Our last meeting?
Yeah.
Okay,
And the email address is
yeah.
Ferguson Michael 1500 @gmail.
I got that.
Yeah,
Okay,
all one word, lowercase.
all right. Old
And
business.
I put that in the email that I sent out, and I sent it to Austin and Anita and Tamika and people who send me things. She had my current one that I use.
Did she?
Tamika did. Yeah. 'Cause she had sent me, she sent me the minutes from the joint meeting we had and a couple of other things. And I did straighten out all the minutes that hadn't gotten posted because of using that old email address. Things weren't going through. And I went up and I spoke to Anita and we squared everything away and she got all the minutes that I had posted. Now, there's some meetings that I didn't attend that I never did minutes for, that I didn't post. I don't know if one of you people did them or anything,
Not sure.
you know?
Okay. First thing I want to do, because we're expecting requests to come in by our next meeting. So I changed, Mike, you'll see some that looks the same, some that changed. Same with you, Dan, but I want to go through this and explain. Some of these are Austin stuff that we needed to rate based on his formula.
Yes,
The rest of them are kind of ours.
yeah,
So if we look at the first one, legally required, if this is a mandatory if yes, this is a mandatory recommendation. So we don't go any further.
right,
Town department priority category. This was from the request that Austin had put together. So I had to assign some numbers to them because we didn't have any. So necessary, immediate, 10, you can look at those and tell me what you think about the numbers and
safety infrastructure. The,
category.
yeah, 1, 2, 3, and 4, yeah, that makes sense to me.
Chris, what do you think of that?
I like
I mean, go from your gut, because all this is new for us here too. We're
See,
using a whole new
you know-
form, basically.
I'm assuming you picked up on how we do this. We put numbers, we assign numbers based on what each of us thinks. And we don't always agree on the same thing. But when we do agree, we end up coming with a total score for this item, another item, and another item, and they're rated numerically,
right.
you know?
Okay,
And,
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it so far. I'm just trying to get a sense of
okay.
the changes. I think I like that some of them now have a negative number, because that never made sense to me. That you
Okay.
would add, it was low points, but you're still giving it something if it makes the situation worse, which never quite was
Yeah,
logical, I
right.
thought.
yeah, I think we all
One of the
agreed with
things-
that.
One of the things I did add was H, request timeline. We never gave credit to somebody submitting something for 5 years or 6 years, and yet it rated that we couldn't do anything.
Yeah,
And yet it was necessary because it's been on the books for 5 years.
it might push others up higher,
It might push them up higher to where it would be appropriate to have it done.
yeah.
So the longer out it goes, the more points you get.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one of the things I added. I thought that would be, after 15 years of seeing this stuff, and you guys on the
I
committee,
think that's a good one to throw in there.
I put that in there.
At least it, like I said, it gives a way for something that's been submitted repeatedly, a chance to get more points just for that.
Right.
You've been asking for it forever.
If you look at G, on the old form, it says grants, and we would assign a 5-point, I believe it was. If we got a grant, it was 5. If they didn't, it was 0. I kind of thought that didn't do justice either. Because if we got a grant that was 10% or somebody got 100%, they still got the same number. That
Well-
could be funded.
You know, that in a sense too, I mean, if it's 100% grant,
That should almost be a mandatory.
that's a mandatory we do it.
Right.
Even 99%, but
But if you
still,
give it
you-
12 points, that's probably gonna put it pretty much into the guaranteed category anyway.
Right.
It should, 100% might just say guaranteed, I don't know.
I don't know, because I want to be able to also affect operating and maintenance costs, go right down the list. And then if we got the grant, that pushes it over.
When Seth had put the fire engine in there, even though it was a year or two too early, it was 95% grant funded. But that
time.
5%
Right,
is still big money.
right,
You know, and if it's 1.7 million, 5% is
right,
real cash.
right, right.
So it's not
those-
a shoo-in.
Those were two I did. I also changed F a little bit. And I think that might be what you're referring to as minimal decrease or large decrease in the effect on town revenue. Because it was always a zero with us, and that didn't make any sense to me either.
If this is gonna cost us a lot of money.
If this is gonna cost us
Long
money,
term.
we're gonna
Should be
reduce
penalized, yeah.
their pens. Right,
Yeah.
right. I didn't assign a lot of points to it, so you can see, what do you think about those points now?
Yeah.
Effect on town revenue, do you think a large decrease -5 is enough?
Yeah, I mean, even though it may have a negative long-term impact, there are some things that we may wanna vote on and consider, you know?
Okay,
And we can always make exceptions to rules. 100% funded, that would be an obvious exception, and some things.
and
but,
effect on operating and maintenance costs?
I think too, Harry,
Oh.
we've,
Yeah.
we've historically used these as guidelines. So if a situation comes up where we say like, large decrease doesn't even really categorize it because it's actually, it's so large that it
Right.
should be an automatic disqualification. We've got the flexibility, do we say, well, we should actually probably do it -7 for this? or-
Right, right, we can.
Yeah, we have the flexibility to do that, and we have to some extent.
I mean, I could
makes
change
sense.
this to a -9 so that we have the flexibility up to -9 if we wanna add more points
Well,
because
We
we
could
got it.
say, what if we just said -5 or higher,
You know,
-5 plus?
if we get in this
Well, I'm trying to be
situation,
consistent So we don't get questioned on why we're rating this one a certain point versus this, if we stay within our parameters.
Can I
Over the
just
15 years, that's been my issue.
ask, to your point, 5% seems pretty standard, but depending on what the value is, 5% can be a lot or it can be a little. So for your large decrease, do you want to classify that as like an over/under? It's -5 if it's under this amount and more if it's over a certain amount or something like that? I don't know what the numbers normally are, so I'm just wondering what a large increase
And
actually
you know
would.
what? I actually
entail.
don't know, because we've never really evaluated that.
Okay.
we have been,
We've looked at, but in all my years, we gave it a 0. If it didn't be a positive, it never went below that. But,
if it's gonna cost us long-term money for something,
right,
to buy a capital item that's got huge maintenance costs every year, that's a negative. In my, I hadn't thought about it before, but it might be a negative factor we wanna take in. And, I mean, our discussions will be recorded if anybody wants to really see why we gave a number we did in our discussion, it's there for people to see.
right.
You know, this is a guideline, and in the past, we have been a little flexible with how we put the numbers in.
We've
You
always,
know, we
right.
say, let's put a 4, there's no 4, there's 1, 3, and 5, let's put a 4 because
Right,
it's,
we've done that, but we've stayed within the parameters of those numbers.
and we'll,
So, I mean, we probably can go outside on an extraordinary item. This isn't gonna
I
happen
mean,
on
if we
every
wanna
item.
stay within the parameters, we might wanna go a little higher. Because just as a hypothetical, say you have something that the same item provides a minimal reduction in effect on operating and maintenance costs, that gives it a +5.
Yeah.
But it's also a large decrease on town revenue, that's a -5. So those two offset each other and you're at 0, whereas I
Right.
think you're actually in the negative there.
Right, right, because although maintenance costs, you're right,
Mm-hmm.
maintenance costs could be $100,000 cost extra, where revenue could be affected by 500,000.
Right.
You're right.
And so
Dan.
you
know,
don't want that to be a 0, you want
if
that
we
to be a
need,
negative.
if
Right.
we really need something that has a long-term maintenance cost, and it's something the town needs, like in the water filtration plant or something, you approve it, even though it is gonna have a long-term maintenance cost.
The
You know?
reason I did this is when we get into looking at the capital stuff that we've been discussing in the past and what's on there, I thought that there needed to be a little more wiggle room in
Yeah.
terms of what we were looking at. Anywhere from equipment to buildings. I mean, the water filtration plant is gonna come up in the next 5 years,
Gonna be
without a
things then.
question, if not sooner. It's in tough shape.
And in theory, that might come out of the capital account, the water
It's water and sewer.
and sewer. It wouldn't be coming from, in theory, would not be coming from town funds.
Right.
The water and the sewer department are both capital accounts. They live within their budgets of the money they bring in.
One thing that I need you to be aware of is that everything that is going to the town for a vote under the current bylaw has to come through CIPC. If it's going for a town, before the town.
If it's a capital item.
If it's a capital item, it has to go, which is gonna bring up, I'm gonna discuss something towards the end, and you'll see where I'm going with this. But it's the current bylaw. The new bylaw has a slight change in it, where it says that anything that is going to be a capital item has to go through the town. It doesn't say it has to go through the town meeting.
Well,
This old bylaw says town meeting, and there might be something coming up for that soon, and that's why I wanted to make you aware of that, okay?
you might have seen in the minutes from last week, if you read it, that the capital item, we're gonna jump that to 25,000, not 10. Because so many maintenance items are gonna be exceeding
Right,
the 10. You know?
and we've had 10 for 15
And we had a little
years, so-
discussion about that last, 2 weeks ago. And that was Austin's recommendation, and according to him, the state gives you that flexibility. I thought it was carved in stone, but apparently it's not.
So anything under 25, the town can do what they want,
You know,
so again, that's up to them. So what would you suggest on this -5 then? Would you keep it the same? So it
I might
blanks
go to
out the sewer?
-7 or -8, because then that way we can always put it somewhere between the -2 and then the max, and we're staying within the parameters like we talked about.
Okay, what do you think?
I agree with that. I mean,
Yes.
it makes sense that, well, something that's gonna be a draw on the community.
Yeah.
It's not a one-time expense, it's a
Right.
long-term expense. Granted, anything, a fire engine and something, it's a long-term expense, but not every year,
Right,
only when it starts to get old.
And then that should probably be for both E and F.
oh, come on. I just wanna
Yeah.
see if I can get, yeah, that sounds good, we can change that, what'd you say,
I
7?
think we could do 7.
Yeah.
I think it gives us the power to offset some of the other issues.
Okay,
You might say as high as 7 or something, I don't know. But, I don't think that's gonna come up too often.
We don't usually get those proposals.
No,
no,
no.
I'm gonna see if I can get a hold of Ritten if he's willing to.
Log in remotely.
Well, yeah, we don't have Zoom, so he's just gonna be on the phone.
Oh, I thought,
Although if it has this live, if it's live, you might, I don't know,
No, this is.
'cause,
just recording.
yeah, I was watching some of your town meeting a couple days ago, and there were people remote.
Yeah.
One of
But
the
they were using-
selectmen
They
was.
were using Zoom, they had
Yeah.
Zoom. I didn't sign up for,
Well, he may have a commitment where he's off at something, and
I let him know, I tried
Your
to.
call has been forwarded to an automated.
All right, he'll see I called, okay. All right, so, I like those comments, those two are good.
Yeah.
You don't think 100% funded should be there, Mike?
I think 100% is a no-brainer. It has no effect on our budget whatsoever. And it doesn't, there's no sense in rating it higher than other things in comparison.
So,
Except we still have to rate it, right? We still have to put it forward with a number either way.
right,
Okay,
right. I mean,
So,
just because, even though it comes 100% grant, doesn't make it mandatory.
right. You're right. I hadn't thought
if
of
we're
that.
gonna recommend it. We still have to give it a number.
Right.
Treat it the same. Okay. I hear that. And,
Okay. So now look at the numbers that we have here. Some of you have seen them from the old rating sheets. and see if we're okay.
I like this new sheet better.
More discussion on it?
It's, there are more options here to,
Okay.
let us do an accurate rating.
Chris, I know you haven't been
No,
for
but
any of
it-
these, but
from a fresh set of eyes, and after, you know, having some of the conversations with Austin last, or 2 weeks ago, I think it plays right into it, I think. Gives you the flexibility and a little more accuracy.
And so you incorporated some of his changes here at the top.
Yes.
And you made some of your own.
right.
And
What I did
I
was-
doubt he's gonna object to that.
What I did was I read his stuff, and then I read our old stuff that says, here's the instructions for these. And that's where I melded these kind of together, because he didn't have a point system assigned. He just said this, it was rated very high, high, medium, low. But if we're gonna do this thing, that has to have a point system to it.
Right.
So that's where that comes
Well,
into play.
I like that, and I think we should adopt that sheet.
Okay, this is not something we have to make a motion on because
I wouldn't
it's
think it
part
is.
of the capital plan book in terms of setting something like this up, so. Okay, so we're all in agreement on that
I
then?
think it's an improvement, it's good.
Okay, great.
I don't know if you saw, you probably didn't see some of the stuff that Austin handed out to us last week. One was a schedule about it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we can make you a copy, I guess, and he sent us a whole new,
We're gonna,
request summary for 5 years, for 25 through 30.
when we get the stuff in, we're gonna look at that, but I also made some graphs I wanna go over with you too, to give you an idea of where that stuff is that we're going out to 2030 on. Because a lot of that stuff goes to 2030. But that's the schedule, so sometime in September, stuff's gonna go out, which he said it did, and then October, we're gonna be evaluating things.
I think we're gonna be evaluating before that. He wants to get everything moving faster, and
You
he's
know-
gonna take the lead on it.
I
We have
tried,
stuff by the next meeting. we can
What's
do it.
that?
If we have some of them back by then,
well, if we have them back accurate,
yeah.
you and I both know that Seth does a great job of filling out the things. But there are so many questions, there were so many things on there, that when we look at these things, did they put them on there?
Yeah.
Effect on operating and maintenance costs, are we going to see that? And if we don't, we're gonna have to get them in or have.
The sheets.
So this is
We
a
don't
trial.
know, we don't know what DPW is gonna look like this year.
No, and Austin, changed some of the forms that will go to the departments, asking them more questions about what they wanna buy, you know? And, you know, someone like Joe Buckley, if he was here, would be able to answer them. I'm sure Seth could. But I'm not sure if,
And we don't know who's gonna do this. It's gonna be all out to supposedly departments, committees, everybody, so
well,
we don't know.
Austin had some good ideas. I mean, and he clearly wants to make our job easier by making sure we get everything we need
Now I
without
wanna,
having to chase people.
right. Right. This is the overall plan of this right here. And what I did was, I wanted to see where the capital outlays were. Because I'm gonna show you a graph in the future that shows that we do a terrible job as a town trying to keep our debt even and flexible versus up and down and all over the place. So hopefully, with what we're doing, that TA has put together. This chart here just tells you by year when we are expecting the requests for money and when the large is gonna be. And you can see 2027 coming up is when it's gonna hit the big number, almost double any other year.
Yeah, well, that's, some of that $9 million for the new fire station design and construction. That's not gonna come out of free cash.
Well, see, the thing of it is, we
It's
don't know where
borrowing,
it's
it's long-term
coming from.
borrowing.
We don't know what it's gonna do, but we are going to have to be looking to make our recommendations on that. And that's where we're gonna hit the 10. 2025, let me show you the next sheet. this is kind of broken down a little bit more so you can see how things are by what's on that sheet. So now if you look at the sheet, you can see in 2024 what the total recommendations are. That kind of matches with this. And in the fire, which is that red with the bars on it, that's where most of the money is coming from in 9,000,005. Number one is going to be, I believe, a fire truck. A new ladder truck is gonna be,
An ambulance.
you know, so. And so if you look at all the other stuff in 2027, most of those are below like 250,000, so it's not a lot of expense. So we're gonna have to be on our toes, if you will, and really look at these things in order to say, here's my question to you guys, how do we balance this stuff out? How do we balance it so we don't have a $10 million bond issue going out when there's a possibility we're gonna be building another school, from what I hear? And that's gonna be another 15, 20 million.
Those are gonna be override votes.
They have to be. And then we've got the town hall that we haven't even been fit in here. In the town hall, are we gonna rehab it or are we gonna build a new one? So a lot of the stuff that's projected isn't here. This is just the stuff that's on this sheet. So we're gonna be looking at that when it comes in. Some, we may say, you know what, we need to move that to this year. Or we need to move that to next. We need to balance this stuff off. And that's why this year the CIPC is gonna be part of the overall financial plan for the town. And using the capital budget as a process to help the finance committee do their job financing the
Gee,
town.
I noticed this street sweeper was originally scheduled for this year, this coming year, and it's been put out to 27.
Yeah. It's not gonna happen.
I have no one to drive it.
The other thing we have is, we now have a 2.5 override. So we have to be very careful how we manage that money. And we can't be frivolous with it. We have ARPA funds that are still left. We have some funds that are left from projects that didn't get all the money spent or wasn't spent at all. And then we have hospital money, all right, RDIC money that hasn't, we still got quite a bit there that hasn't been spent. And then we have, like I said, the 2.5 on top of that. So we gotta look at, part of it will trying to be, where can we get this money from if we approve these things? They really want us help, they wanna see if we can do that for them too. Look at the grants, look at the gifts, look at the revolving, wherever we have to look at to see how this thing can be funded. And then once we turn it to them, it's up to their job to see where they wanna fund it from. But we just gotta do ours. Okay, are there any questions on this?
No.
Does it make sense to you what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
I think some of the big ticket items will take care of themselves and we'll just either rubber stamp them or, I mean, that fire station, things like that. Those are gonna be override votes or whatever.
Well, yeah, and,
Um,
but here's my problem with that.
But it's
We're gonna
a capital item, we should still have our
Okay,
say.
we ran into this in the past, Mike, which you know well. I think maybe you do too, Dan. We, like for the fire station, I think it's gonna cost us 1.2 or some million dollars to do a study for the fire station. What if we do that and then the fire station doesn't get built for another 10 years? We've already spent $1.2 million. So we said as a committee, 2 years ago, we don't want to approve any study unless the town is certain they want to build a fire station in a reasonable amount of time. We're
Right.
not waiting, because that's financial suicide
It's,
to do that now.
back in that April meeting, we voted on Joe's motion to tell them we're recommending the rest of that money, ARPA money, be used to fund those projects that they're doing studies on. They're spending $50,000 to map out what needs to be done on the envelope of the library and the senior center, community hall, and they're the same building. We voted, earmark that money for it, otherwise it may not get done.
And,
And those are smaller ticket items that you hate to see them pushed aside.
well, about a month ago, we put a stop on all ARPA funding
Did you? Okay.
until we can see where the money needs to go. And I'm gonna bring a subject up at the end of the meeting.
The minutes from that April meeting was when we voted on that.
Right.
And,
Actually, we sat there with the meeting with the select board, the old select board, and said, we've got 10 projects, but this is the one, these are the two that we think need to be funded.
out of ARPA.
And they did one and didn't do the other.
Yeah.
So out of 2.1 million of ARPA funds, I believe there was, we've got like 460 left, let's say.
So they did spend some of that, or they're going to.
No, they spent a lot of that.
Okay.
And a
'Cause the
lot of
last
it's,
time-
well, a lot of it's already been promised.
Right. It
But it
was like
hasn't
725 the last time we discussed it.
Yeah.
And, yeah,
Then I think they allocated one of the things that we recommended that was like 300 something.
Right.
okay, that's a good step.
Yeah.
That's a good step. But I think they still don't know where next year's budget is going, and I think people are holding it close to the vest saying, what if we really need it to balance the budget or something?
Well, I don't know if we should use ARPA money to balance our budget.
There
With
was
2.5
50,000 that was gonna be earmarked
for this year,
for this year. Right.
2024.
And the big wild card we don't know about is that big package the state has voted that's got all kinds of aid for schools and local governments and stuff in it.
Right. Transportation, roads, and education. Those were, I read through it. There's quite a bit of earmarks. I think there's 150 million earmarked for education, special education to help out that way. Another 100 million for transportation. But Rutland being a small town,
He's gonna get a small portion of that.
we're gonna get a
But a small
portion.
portion could still be real money to us.
So, right. So when we look at these, this is what, blew me away. And let me see if I have that other one here. I just wanna show you if I brought it. We make copies. This right here is our long-term debt year over year. We can't seem to control it. One year it's good, the next year it isn't.
Well, we met with Becky and I thought we agreed that in the middle of the decade, the long-term debt was going down.
It does go down. So just keep this in mind for a second, because,
So I'm sure they'll take care of it with something like that,
well,
you know?
just
If
keep
that
in mind.
does happen. And I'm confused that they've earmarked that much. Like, it almost sounds like they wanna build an entire new structure. I thought that building was gonna get some major rehab, but not to the extent of 9 million.
Well, here's the safety building,
Yeah,
okay? You got the police here, dispatch here, and fire here. So you got 3 units working out of that safety building, and they're all crowded.
and I thought
So
dispatch was eventually gonna move to the annex
we don't know that
with
for sure.
modifications. That was the plan.
The state will pay for quite a bit of the modifications, but if we get one more town signed up as a region, the state will build us a dispatch center.
I did not know that.
So how much money do we pen into the annex when we're working on getting number 5?
Yeah, okay.
You know what I'm saying? Again, should we fix the fire station, take the new windows that are leaking and broken? Should we fix the water that's coming in on the roof?
We'll stop the leak over Seth's desk.
Right, yeah, so, but it's all, I mean, dispatch, you're putting dispatch in a room like this, you got about 8, 9 people with desks and cubicles and everything, even rooms smaller than this, trying to function. I give them credit. So this is just the stuff here that we're going to be dealing with, and how are we gonna handle that? Because there are things that are gonna sneak up on us that, okay, I'll give you an idea. I won't wait till the end. Right now, the select board is debating whether or not we wanna buy a piece of property on Emerald Road that's 16 acres for $400,000. It's corn land right now
Which side of Emerald Road?
on the left. If you're going from Walnut, you take a right.
Yeah.
Or you're coming up Kenwood and you take a right,
Yeah.
a left, it's on the left.
Take a right off of
Walnut,
Walnut onto Emerald?
yeah,
It's on the left.
Go down there
The
by-
big open,
big open cornfield.
yeah. Okay,
A developer has already put a bid in on it for $400,000.
What's the
Now,
long-term goal there?
there is none.
Because we may have to buy a parcel like that for a well.
For what?
A well.
For the town?
Yeah, that was Joe Buckley's parting shot with us, saying, we have no backup supply of water for this town. There's gonna be a study, and there should be a well, and it could be very expensive.
But I don't think we need 16 acres to do that.
I don't know.
I don't think we do.
what would the town do with that land?
Well, that's the problem. They wanna, some people wanna buy it because they wanna keep it natural for foxes and bears and deer. Some people wanna buy it so that the builders don't buy it. And some people wanna buy it for the future, for recreation and sports. So I called a few people, and this is what we're gonna, because it has to go through CIPC if this is a capital
The money,
purchase,
yeah.
okay? Number one, it's gonna cost us $400,000, but still doesn't do anything about the road. Has anybody been on Emerald Road?
Every day.
So you know what I'm talking about.
Oh, well, you're talking about sports facilities, so well, you're not gonna be getting traffic in there with the road the way it is.
I mean, how do you get by a bus?
You can't,
That's what I mean.
two trucks can't get by each other on most
You
of it.
have
You have to
maybe
use
3 or
use a
4
driveway.
spots. You have 3 or 4 spots.
I'm
where
not
they-
sure where that parcel is, because Emerald comes in, the beginning of it is good, but then it turns real bad, right?
Yeah, but
So
it's.
if you're
it's a-
coming in from Maple,
Yeah,
it's paved until you go up the hill.
right,
Then when you turn to go over towards Turkey Hill, it's dirt for the rest of the way. And
yes,
that parcel he's talking about is shortly after it turns dirt.
okay.
Right, and they're selling about 54 acres. So 16 is only one piece of
You
the
know-
buildable
Do you know who's selling it?
minor.
Oh, Viner, oh, okay.
So if we buy this, guess what's gonna happen to the rest of it? If we don't want that, it's still gonna be built.
Yeah.
But if we want it to preserve it, now we're talking 600,000. So there are different, but my point is, I was looking through some of these. You know, we've got 3 parking lots that are in terrible disrepair,
Mhm.
$300,000 to $400,000 each. Well, here we're spending.
I still have those estimates from Joe Buckley.
Right. So the point is we may have to look at this if the select board does their job and sends it to us. If not,
Negative rating.
then it's gonna go to a town. The town has to approve this.
That's something that it's got a long-term cost to it. You no longer have taxes coming in off that property,
Right.
you know?
Well, look at it this way. Let's say that we wanna keep it for conservation. Let the animals roam around it free. We could lease it out and let the farmer who grows the corn, we could probably lease it out for about $1,800, $2,000 a year. The interest payments on that are gonna cost us about $15,000, 12 to 15 a year. So we're not gaining anything.
Right.
So this is gonna be our job to really look at this if it comes to this.
If this,
I don't know if it
right,
will.
we'd have to discuss that. I mean, if there's
Right.
definitive plans for some kind of recreational, some sort of benefit of the town.
I think
But just to
there,
keep it out of a developer's hand costs the town money. And I'm not really big on pro-development, but it costs us money.
well, the other thing is, if we develop it as a sports field, we might be able to get 2 soccer fields there and parking.
But those cost us money.
Well, it's gonna cost us a lot of money because the town can't do it.
No.
You have to contract with an outside source to come in, put in drainage, level the fields, put in all kinds of,
There was talk at one point about some of the state land doing that, and it got shot down. One, because it didn't generate revenue for the town, it actually cost the town money. And this, one of the conditions the state put on us taking all that land was that it generate revenue for the town.
so if we go through this list and we go down the list, we can do it as a trial and say, where would this thing rate
Yeah.
buying the land?
Yeah. Oh, from,
Cause it's gonna reduce our revenue,
yeah,
our maintenance costs are gonna go up.
somebody's paying taxes on it now.
And the developer will pay taxes.
Probably a lot more than it's being paid now.
Oh, God,
It's
yeah,
probably zoned agricultural right now.
it is. It just got rezoned as real estate,
Oh, it did?
yeah.
Hmm.
Once she took it out of chapter 61 because she's selling it to a developer for land.
I know people who've sold their land in town. That's their retirement account,
I know people have sold 100 acres.
you know?
That's their retirement account.
Guy who sat on this committee.
That's right. So when you look at this, I mean, again, how do you look at this? The only way we can look at something like this is that rating sheet. That's how important that is.
Yeah, you gotta
That it
take,
doesn't change from
you gotta
one-
take the head games out of it and just go by numbers,
Right.
you know? Take the politics out and look at numbers.
That's what's great about this committee. We don't do that. We just look at facts and numbers. So I bring that up because those are the weird things that could come before our committee.
Well,
Yeah.
do you think that's got a chance of passing? I mean,
I don't know. I don't even know what's gonna happen. We have a meeting on September 18th, I think, or 19th, to bring it up again for the meeting. But I just wanted to, again, the expenses out there in the town of the stuff that we're gonna be overseeing is just so enormous. I mean, I got a sheet right here, I'll pass it around, you can take a look at it. This was 2021 prices paid by the town. And what it cost us was 21, so it was a couple of years ago, but you're looking at for library, public safety, community hall, community center, DPW, to pave the lots,
Yeah.
$386,000.
that's more detailed than the one Joe gave us. He never gave us one to pave DPW too.
Yeah, so, I mean, you can look at that, but that's what I'm saying, so here we've got $400,000, $408,000, 442 is an outset. Again, our job is to look at how do we keep the tax
see that?
rate down? How do we do stuff appropriately?
That's the paving.
Okay. Now, here's another thing we looked at. Now, this is from
Plus
2016.
15%, yeah.
And I
Okay.
want you just to take a look at what the infrastructure long-term debt obligations are. And this has to do with also the school constructions out there, but does not take into consideration Wachusett.
Yeah,
Because that is truly a long-term debt obligation.
that's the big elephant in the room, what you said. You never
So
know
you
what
can
that's gonna
see
do.
that over time, we have been managing our debt. However, even with managing our debt, we still had to pass 2.5. So our debt is so critical to us in figuring out how to do things right, that if we don't, we're gonna be in another 3 or 4 years maybe, passing another 2.5. And you understand that once you pass 2.5, that is a permanent tax. A permanent, doesn't never go away. And then I wanna show you what our long-term debt protection looks like when we add Wachusett in compared to our town. As our debt has gone down, trying to solve the time, the costs of Wachusett have gone up.
That's,
So even offsetting our debt, it just barely breaks the cost of Wachusett going up. And that's what we're up against with
I wouldn't be surprised
CIPC.
if it goes up faster than that.
Well, I up those are actual figures prior to 20, what's the date at the bottom
Um,
on the left? Is there a date on that one?
2015? Are you saying how far back it goes?
Yeah,
It goes back to 2015.
no, but what's the date?
December 2016.
2016, those were actual numbers. After that, I projected 5%.
yeah, well, I mean, how much did it go up this past year? We had to do an
It's
override.
9%.
Yeah, okay, so those,
Right, so trying to
actually,
be generous at
yeah.
5. So again, when we look at our job as a capital committee, all these things we have to take a look at. And that's why revenue and maintenance costs become so important.
biggest single long-term expense we have, Wachusett.
Yeah, it is.
And it's never going away.
And the thing of it is, and that's why I come back to, and I don't mean to beat a dead horse, but spending $400,000 for something that you're not sure what you're gonna do with.
There's gotta be a plan. There's gotta be a
There has to be
plan.
something out there
Just to keep it from off the market.
to keep it from builders.
To some extent, builders is good for the town. Not going crazy building, but
Right, but to keep it for animals. You know, I love animals, but see, we're a financial
Well, take this
organization. This is
huge
financial.
bear that's been in my backyard, and we'll put it over there.
Yeah.
So that's not a pristine wilderness. It's
No, it's
cleared
not.
land.
No, it's not.
Not with 16 acres,
No.
no.
The corn will feed the deer just fine, Dan. What are you talking about?
So, being a financial, I mean, yes, we all have our own personal opinions about what we feel about things, but financially, does it make financial success for the town by doing something like that? I have not been able to find how we can generate the revenue required to pay the interest on the loan. If we
Really?
can do that, that's a no-brainer until we figure out what we wanna do.
Yeah,
But if we're borrowing at 3 on 400,000, that's 12 grand a year in interest. How do we work that out for $12,000?
I'm gonna bet they're not finding 400 in free cash for that.
I don't, well, not in free cash, but you could pull 400 out of the Rutland Heights.
Yes, you could.
But what does that say then for the businesses that we're trying to develop at Rutland Heights? That's a cost of money. So,
I think some of that money has to stay in Rutland Heights because it's gonna be more expensive trying to attract more businesses and things there.
right. I think once, hopefully we'll get it done before that, but once Harmony Homes is built, you got 140 units up there. Somebody's gonna find a way to put something in there to help out the 140 units, whether it's a little grocery store or whatever.
Something,
Somebody
maybe.
looked out, who knows? Medical,
Seems to me,
CVS.
I go for walks down through there a lot. Seems to me they're doing a lot of earth movement and nothing else.
Exactly. They're starting to put the main water line in,
Oh, okay.
so they had to prepare for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what? As they go down, that is good earth. Usually you figure first 3, 4, 5 feet is good. All the stuff they're digging up is good on that place. It's like, wow, good earth. And right here, sewer numbers, if you look at 5-year capital plan for sewer, you don't, it's in there, but this is an updated one. You can gonna share that. We're talking $1 million for sewer, and that was going back to 2020. And we haven't even finished doing some of this yet, and we oversee any capital stuff that's done in sewer. And then the water system. We've got $2 million on water that has to be. And this was a plan that we're working on right now, that, not us, but
Well, we don't have a lot of big upcoming expenses, but, in this 5-year thing, but,
right, but because it's a capital, we get involved in it.
yep. Well, a lot of these are routine things, replacing a dump truck, replacing over the next 5 years, but
Right.
if they wanna pave the lot and rebuild the facility and stuff,
And to point out that Austin contacted the state, and the state agreed to flatten and pave the town hall parking lot and the roads in front. The circular way, the one that leads in from the police station,
yeah.
we got that paid for free.
Yeah, no, well,
much
Austin
that
told us
cost?
something, nothing.
No.
Well, it cost, but,
That would have been a $250,000 to $300,000
Yeah.
project.
yeah, Austin talked about that last week. And all he did was just throw some questions at the superintendent on the job.
Right.
We got it done.
So I'm glad to see that he's fighting hard to keep our costs down, and I guess ultimately what I'm saying is we gotta do the same thing. How can we help this town?
I didn't go look at that job that they did. As a matter of fact, I parked there to go talk to Anita the other day. I didn't take a close look at it because there were some drainage issues that were affecting the pool and possibly causing some of the cracking around the pool and
You
stuff.
know where that drainage comes from? Fire station.
Yeah, well,
It
that's,
doesn't come from the town.
no,
It comes
it's,
from over there, and we actually put in drainage systems by the pool to see if that would help.
yeah, well, that's,
But it
That's
has
a-
helped a little bit, but not.
yeah,
There's a bunch going into the playground.
right.
Yeah, and that's what we tried to do by doing that stuff. by
I saw that
putting
they had
pipe in.
done some on the other side of the playground.
But there should have been a drainage pipe that, somewhere that takes a lot of that water and
Right.
redirects it somewhere else.
And now you're seeing that, that's not even on here.
Yeah.
That's a project that didn't even hit this sheet. So
Right.
what's that gonna cost, 50, 75, 100,000?
I have no idea, that's, nobody's looked at it, but
Right.
yeah, it would be at least in that ballpark to put the kind of drainage line that might be needed to redirect that somewhere down Palmagussit Road or where, I don't know.
Right. If we're talking about building a public safety building, the value of the building currently is 2.3 million. I would like to see us build that same building for $2.3 million.
Yeah, not a chance.
I don't think we're gonna do it.
Isn't that number that you have in that sheet says 9 million?
Yeah,
Where'd you get that number? That came out of,
so when we start needing some of these things, like the street pump station, Mushkapog, they're saying it's gonna be 300,000. No way. That's the current value they've assessed on it.
insurance
some-
values, yeah.
Yeah, at some point, we're gonna need a new DPW garage. It's holding up well. Landfill storage shed in Charnock, you know. Water tower, 1.7 million for that water tower, that's one, and we have two of them. So we had one that was failing and we had it fixed, but we couldn't depend on it, so we built the second water tower. So we are still paying for that water tower. So let's hope one still holds up and we don't need to buy another one.
You know, these numbers are for insurance purposes.
Right,
And some of them, I'd question them right away, you know? The DPW garage,
what
to be able to replace all the lifts and everything that are built in there,
right,
you couldn't replace them for $68,000,
no.
you know?
So,
I've been through that building and looked at all those things.
like the town hall annex
Contents.
is rated for, it's $331,000 value.
Hmm.
If we rehab that whole thing, it's probably gonna cost us $250,000 just to rehab it, to get it ready for the dispatch to move in.
Yeah.
And then we're still not gonna be any closer to the cell towers or in a higher point for their use. The Woodhouse Historical Society, we lease it out. They put a building value at $41,000. You know what it's cost us so far to fix that thing up?
60,
A
I don't
lot
know,
more than $41,000.
with the roof just.
And the same thing with the public library. They needed all kinds of stuff over there. So what I'm doing is I'm giving you an idea here, is that if these things come up, that they're the purview of the select board, but the DPW oversees the maintenance of these things. And then we look at the Mushkapog Water Treatment Facility. So just about everything on here is an article for borrowing money. And if we see how our borrowing has been going down, when does it start going up? How do we keep this level with all these things going on? I certainly don't have an answer at this point, that's for sure. And I'm gonna show you something that I don't know why this passed. If you look at the list, this was 2022, a list of stuff. You guys may need to share this. One of the things on there is the Woodhouse structural repairs for $35,000 that we paid.
We paid more than that, didn't we?
But you know what? There's a lease agreement, which we never knew about, that says we don't pay anything to have those repairs done.
Historical Society would have had no money to do that.
They had to get grants. Because the town was not required to do that by lease. So another thing comes in, when we're looking at what we're doing, we need to investigate further. I've got a copy of most of the leases. So if something comes up, we can take a look at it. Second half of Woodhouse roof repair, $27,500.
So I was saying it cost more than that, because we had to go back to the bank
Okay.
and got that out of ARPA money, right?
Yep. I replaced a Naquag electrical switchgear.
Yeah, we
they-
approved
they-
that last year.
Yeah, well, they came up, there was a request that was done for electrical stuff that they needed done, and I went to our electrical inspector. And I said, I'd like you to take a look at Naquag and see what it's like. He came back to me and he says, we don't need that. These things are fine.
Was
All of a
that
sudden-
the money that we voted and approved last year?
Yeah. So this is the stuff that gets by us, that we really have to do our homework.
I thought that money was spent. We approved it and I thought they spent it,
Oh, I'm sure they did.
but it was an expense that maybe,
At this point. However, because it's over $25,000, the school has a right to request it be done. Wachusett. And it came to us. So, yeah, parking lot rehab and repayment across various buildings, $976,000. And here we are being, and not to
let's
be
see if they have any
facetious.
more retainage on Public Outlet Road.
Yeah, and here we are, and I don't mean to be, thinking about spending $400,000 on buying a cornfield. So where's that money coming from? So,
No
but
idea.
we can take a look at that.
Well, if it comes to a vote, we'll
If
put
it
some
comes
numbers
to
to
us,
it.
if it comes to us, we'll vote on it. But that's kind of all I wanted to do, is give everybody an idea where we stand on the committee and what we're gonna be looking at this year. They're gonna wanna do things. I have no problem with that, as long as they follow the bylaws and they send it through our committee and we do our job.
Right now, the only item we had that was gonna come up this year was the sander that we knew about.
Brush, you mean
And that's
the,
been put off for 2 years.
yeah,
Not the brush cutter, the street sweeper.
street sweeper, right.
Yeah. And that's
Oh.
been put off till 27.
Here's another, I've just got the street sweeper, and I'm looking at this and, okay. It was 257,932, and I never really looked at this quote. And I suppose I should have, because here's some things. Pelican Operator's Manual, $64. Pelican Parts Book,
They don't give you an operator's manual on a
$109.
$250,000 item.
Pelican Service, $109. John Deere Operator's Manual, $64. John Deere Parts Book, $118. It's like, we gotta pay for those books?
When you're paying that much for the,
Can't you just find the manual online?
I was just gonna say
I'm
that.
saying, this
I don't
is,
keep manuals of things I buy, you just Google it afterwards.
that's right. So I'm saying,
$20 to print 100 pages.
Or $150 to get it through that.
so what's I'm saying, when we look at these things, we gotta really start digging into it.
Well, the truth is, we really didn't look at that because it hadn't officially come before us.
Right,
So
I know, yeah. Just, I mean.
Yeah,
it's
look
just-
for the fine print.
I go crazy. So that's the kind of stuff that, we're gonna try to, this year, start a whole new regime of doing things. Maybe being a little tougher on some, a little easier on others, with a rating sheet. And that's why I want to do the rating sheet first, so you could kind of see where my thoughts were of the stuff that we're going through, or we're gonna be looking at.
Wow. Long-term, some of those older charts you gave us are a little
Those are gonna be updated. I just got new info
deceptive
from Becky.
because, yeah,
Yep, so they're gonna be updated.
okay. But, interesting stuff.
Yeah, because that, you saw how that was great. I want to see how it compares to that one, how we did.
Well, as much as we look at long-term debt and take a lot of that into account, I still think some of those huge items, like building a new police station, we're not gonna have much say in that. I mean, we'll rubber stamp to fund a study, engineering work or something.
I don't know, we should. I mean, if it comes to us, it might be a mandatory thing.
Yeah.
Or it might be, well, the state's gonna pay 80% of it,
Yeah,
So,
yeah, but 20% of $9 million is real money.
yeah, that's right, but it's still not.
That's still a bond or something, right?
Right.
But,
So we'll take a look
Give
at
it a
that when
number.
it comes in, huh?
We'll give it a number.
That's it, we'll take a look at it. Nobody's gonna shoot us because we didn't like it or did like it. This is what it says. So, anything you guys wanna discuss? I wanted this to be a intro for this year.
Yeah, and I think it's good timing, cause I think next time we may have some requests in.
Yes, we might. If Austin
Again,
follows
as
through on
mentioned,
this,
They may not be what we need, they may not be an end product,
Right.
but it might give us some idea what's coming.
well, the big items that we know from, fire, car one replacement.
Well.
That's the
Carl-
only thing on Seth's budget for fiscal '24.
Right, well, you know what?
But you don't know what could change.
And you don't know what the codes are now. You don't know how the state treats it as old, or should it be updated? It doesn't qualify anymore. All these things we don't.
But we don't have the information on that, but I'll bet you anywhere, I was looking for some of my information that Seth gave us in the past. And he had all his equipment broken down by how old it was and everything. And I'm not
Oh, I-
sure how I misplaced it, but I couldn't find it, cause I was curious about that car one
I can
replacement
send,
coming
I've
up.
got it. I can send it to you if you want.
Yeah, I should have it too.
I think
And
I
if I
did.
start
I sent a lot of stuff out. I like 4 or 5 emails of stuff that I sent out
when,
2 weeks ago.
then you didn't send them to
The right address.
Ferguson Michael, cause I didn't get them. Because I didn't get anything from you.
I specifically sent stuff out on Seth. The fire truck, this, that, everything else. It was a package, so you guys could see what a package looks like.
Him and
Besides
Joe were
what-
both great about giving us a breakdown of every piece of major equipment they had and its age and its condition and everything. We had charts on all of those. I have them, but how long have I been on this committee? I've got a stack of stuff. And it's not filed as neatly as it should be.
The other thing is, since this committee came into being back in 2008, the town has been very responsive to our recommendations. They pretty much, if they had the money, just about did what we asked to do. And you saw here, we have about $22 million worth of stuff, equipment, capital stuff. In the past, we've been averaging, except for a fire truck or an ambulance, we've been averaging about 100,000 a year in requests. Tough years, I think we only did the street sweeper last
Well,
year.
a couple of years, so
Yeah.
we recommended 200,000 or 180,000 in
So
purchases.
we were pretty frugal when it came to recommending stuff, trying to keep within it, so,
We turned down a lot of little things, brush cutters and stuff like that,
yeah.
you know.
But I just don't like, we don't oversee land. For example, the rec department has a baseball field. It's the only one that is capable of hosting tournaments, baseball tournaments. Although we have another baseball field, we can't do that with. There are two. This is the one, and it's very well maintained at all. So that land needs to be upgraded. But unless somebody comes and says, we want to do this, we want to put in a project hit, we can't overdo
Hey,
it.
we got 14 acres where we can put a new field.
Oh, we got 16 acres.
16, excuse me.
Yeah, maybe we can do something with that one.
Field of dreams.
Field of dreams, yeah, you know.
So, anything else, Dan, any other, then we'll, if not, we'll
No.
adjourn for tonight.
Nothing else.
Okay.
Chris,
I think we're good.
Mike?
Shall I make a motion, we adjourn?
If there are no other questions, go right ahead.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
I'll second.
All right.
10 seconds.
Any discussion? If not, have a roll call. Chris?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Dan?
Aye.
Second? Aye.
7:37 adjourned.
So adjourned.